I just made a video about how I collect my soil erosion and runoff in these little settling pools, and how I let the water and time and carbon, from leaves and just chopped up stuff, mix and rot and turn into topsoil. And then I fling it onto a garden that's right next to the settling pools. And these are bathtub sized or smaller. They don't have to be big. Now this is this little alley right here. And to my right, there's a retaining wall that I pick away at. There's a bunch of free rock. It's limestone, so it's not like working with sandstone. It's very irregular and it doesn't shape well. It's a pain in the butt to build with. And I get discouraged and I put it down for a year at a time, it seems. And it gets buried in leaves. But anyway, this area is where I have stump grindings dumped. It's where I blow all my leaves to, because the water flows right in the center of this frame right here. The water flows under the fence and in through my yard right here. It goes around the retaining wall and down around the corner, past the pig pen into the first settling pool. This that I'm standing on is all stump grindings. Stump grindings is phenomenal because it's carbon and dirt. It breaks down very fast. The more this gets disturbed, the more the rains will flow it into that flow and send it to the settling pools. So it will happen on its own with time, but you can accelerate it with disturbance. Now, I'm not going to stand here and rake it. I'm not. But I've got this one pig that refuses to stay in the darn pen, just keeps getting out, and I'm not going to fight him on it. He wants to be out all the time, so I'm going to put that one pig to work by putting his grain out here. I'm not going to keep catching him, putting him back in. Instead, I'm going to let him stir up all these leaves, eat the worms out of them, and get everything trampled and loosened. Now he's working right here in this little notch, and this is like a water rut. It has since changed. I need to modify it again, but the water tends to flow down this crease. So there's a hill, there's a bank on my right hand side in this frame, and there's this trough full of leaves. So the water gets plugged up, it stops flowing because it gets packed up with leaves. Well, if those leaves get stirred, they stay wet, and they get stirred and they get oxygenated, it turns into some really good fertile dirt, which is now what I'm stepping in. That's where he's been working. He's been flipping up the leaves and digging for grubs or worms, or it's generally worms. Earthworms are always going to be underneath a wet layer of leaves. And that flows into the first little pool right there. So I'm going to put him to use. Every time it rains, this fine, nice sediment is just going to get collected in my settling pool. And so I'm going to feed him where I want him, which is, I threw some corn in there. So that's what he's working on. But I'm going to bring him up to the wood chips, where I could really use the help. Come on, Slaw. His name's Coleslaw. Get in there, boy. So this is one less thing. I look at this all the time and think, I need to make time to rake that. When you're working all the time and you're behind schedule on everything all the time, trivial little menial tasks like this that my children should do but generally won't, they get put on the back burner. So I'm going to put enough corn in here. What is this costing me? It's 100 pounds of corn and grain mix. That's a sack of grain and a sack of corn. Costs about $25. So he's getting, 0.1 pound. What's the math on that? This is costing me pennies. 8 cents maybe. And what is it gaining for me? Fertility. So the thing about putting corn on wood chips is that it falls through the cracks, which is phenomenal because the pig's trying to get it and his snout is disturbing and it's falling through like quicksand. So he keeps digging deeper. That's exactly what I want. He'll go around and get the easy stuff, but he'll spend the rest of the day, all his energy, all his focus, the rest of the day, he's going to be obedient and work where I want him to work. He's not going to be flipping over my stuff and pooping on the porch and eating holes in the grass. He's going to go always. All these animals are going to go where the corn is They just know somehow that that's the highest energy that they can find, and energy is priority. So he's going to be here when I get home, and this is all going to be worked up. I'll show you later. This is all going to be worked up, and the next week of rain is going to wash a bunch of it down. Exactly what I want it to do. Perfect.